What does a war give back? A phenomenon of life, human development and convergence. This is an audio story written by Red Cardinal Kitchen, the illumination of a dynamic archive. This record preserves the structural arc of a young man and woman whose early adulthood unfolded during economic depression and global war, not to elevate hardship nor to soften its edges, but to observe how survival, injury, marriage, and migration reorganize a lineage across time. It does not recount biography and personal voice, nor does it defend the temperament of those who lived within scarcity. Instead, it documents how hunger, enlistment, distance, craft, and agricultural steadiness converged to shape a household that would later anchor multiple generations. The record is held for continuity of pattern, not for argument or sentiment. Before the enlistment papers were signed, there were long evenings in rooms lit by amber bulbs, tables scarred by elbows, and the low murmur of men counting coins beneath tobacco haze. A young man stood at the edge of those rooms with a guitar balanced against his hip, fingers calloused before his shoulders had fully broadened, learning early how rhythm could steady a stomach that had known too many thin meals. Outside those doors the land was struggling, wages unreliable, and food uncertain. Inside, music moved through the air as currency when dollars could not stretch. The world beyond that small town was shifting toward conflict, but in those rooms the immediate concern was simpler: how to eat tomorrow, how to send something home, how to remain upright when the economy had bent so many others toward the ground. He had grown up where winter winds pressed against wooden boards and work was found only in fragments, and by the time he reached late adolescence he understood that waiting rarely solved anything. Employment in the saloon provided proximity to adults and the illusion of stability, yet it also exposed him to risk in the restless calculations of men who gambled in hopes of stretching thin wages into fuller plates. He learned to read rooms quickly, to sense when laughter masked tension, and to play his guitar loudly enough to draw attention but not so boldly that he invited challenge. In a decade defined by scarcity, he became fluent in improvisation. Enlistment offered something the town could not guarantee: 3 meals, a uniform, and regular pay that could be sent home. The paperwork required confidence beyond his years, and in claiming it he crossed a threshold from boyhood into obligation, not as spectacle but as necessity. Letters carried folded bills back to his mother and younger brothers, each envelope a quiet extension of the kitchen table he had left behind. War was not entered as ideology alone, it was entered as provision. Training hardened the body and compressed fear into function, yet combat does not erase human reflex. On a morning marked by sudden artillery, he did not reach the foxhole as quickly as the ground required, and metal tore through fabric and flesh before earth could shield him. The wound would later be recognized with formal decoration, a small ribbon that stood in contrast to the chaotic moment that produced it. Injury reorganized his trajectory, moving him from frontline urgency to inland reassignment, where recovery and continuation replaced direct assault. While he healed and resumed duty away from the immediate front, agricultural towns in another region continued their steady production. Dairy fields rolled beneath coastal mist, barns stood firm against salt air, and families whose land yielded milk and grain experienced the depression differently than mining towns or factory districts. In one such household, a young woman came of age beneath the watch of a matriarch who measured security in acreage and livestock rather than in weekly wages. Scarcity had brushed against that farm but had not hollowed it. Community dances punctuated the war years, offering music not as escape but as collective recalibration. In a hall where boots scuffed polished boards and laughter carried above fiddle and drum, the young woman arrived with a dog at her side, the animal's calm presence as natural as her posture. She did not enter as ornament, she entered as herself, anchored by land and family. It was there, beneath suspended lights and within reach of a borrowed melody, that she encountered the soldier recovering from injury, uniform crisp against the wooden backdrop. Their meeting did not carry theatrical announcement. It unfolded in measured conversation between songs, in shared steps timed to a rhythm that required neither confession nor promise. He spoke with the tempered cadence of someone who had seen distance. She listened with the steadiness of one raised within continuity. When the final set concluded and doors opened to cool night air, a new alignment had begun, not dramatic but deliberate. Marriage followed within wartime constraint, modest in ceremony and practical in tone. The matriarch of the farm observed the union with scrutiny sharpened by protection, measuring the young man not only by affection but by his capacity to provide and remain. When he suggested relocation toward his birthplace once service concluded, the answer from that hilltop household was firm. The daughter would not leave the region so quickly, and the land would not relinquish her without negotiation. Authority and pride met without raised voices yet without surrender. Service continued inland after injury, and children began arriving within that interim geography. The first was born while uniform still defined his days, the distance between cradle and barracks bridged by letters describing weight and health. Subsequent births followed across stations and towns, the family forming in fragments before consolidating into one place. War had given him a ribbon and a scar, but it had also given him a wife and the beginning of lineage. When service concluded, he did not return to the town of his youth. Instead, he followed his wife back toward the dairy region, where coastal fog softened mornings and fields required constant attention. The matriarch's earlier refusal remained intact. The daughter's roots were deep, and the son-in-law would learn to stand upon that soil rather than transplant her to another. Resentment flickered at times, quiet but persistent, a reminder of divided origins. Construction became the next proving ground. On a stretch of prairie road bordered by grass and distant barns, he raised walls with his own hands, framing lumber beneath open sky and applying plaster learned through earlier instruction. The smoothing of wet compound across studs and lath required patience, and in that act he reconciled with a craft once rejected in frustration. A house rose not as ornament but as shelter, boards meeting at angles that defined bedrooms and hallways where children would measure their height against door frames. One room in that house was completed ahead of the others, painted in a shade of rose that held warmth against the coastal gray. It stood as finished proof within an otherwise evolving structure, a chamber of color amid exposed effort. In that room, the couple rested while the remainder of the house awaited additional wages and time. Imperfection did not negate completion, it existed alongside it. Employment followed opportunity, and a vast wooden hangar erected during the war for lighter-than aircraft became a site of labor. Its arched beams curved inward in catenary form, a cathedral of timber built because steel had been rationed, and within its cavernous interior lumber was processed for regional yards. There he learned to patch voids in pressed wood, filling imperfections with steady hand before boards moved along the line. The building's scale dwarfed individual effort, yet each patch mattered. Fire later tore through part of that structure, altering employment and reminding the town that even massive constructions are vulnerable. Restaurant shifts and seasonal work supplemented income as circumstances shifted, and meals occasionally thinned to crackers and preserved meat when wages contracted. Pride remained, though it bent under necessity, and the household endured without spectacle. Children observed more than adults articulated. They saw ledgers balanced at kitchen tables, heard murmurs of calculation after bedtime, and learned early the difference between abundance and enough. The house on prairie ground, though modest, held music in its rooms, guitar strings vibrating from dawn until nightfall, rhythm weaving through plastered walls that had once existed only as studs against sky. Resentment regarding geography did not dissolve entirely. He had left behind a birthplace and family to stand within fields not his own. Yet picnics, hayrides, and shared labor across generations blurred the edge of that displacement. Work in barns and along fence lines stitched participation into routine, and though gossip sometimes traveled through extended kin, it did not uproot the structure already set. As children multiplied and years advanced, the war receded into memory while its effects persisted in habit and posture. A ribbon stored in a drawer, a scar beneath clothing, and a discipline shaped by enlistment became part of the household's unseen architecture. The farm matriarch aged yet retained presence, her earlier refusal forming one of the quiet hinges upon which the family's geography turned. Economic fluctuations required reinvention. Skills acquired in youth, music, repair, improvisation, shifted toward new technologies as television entered living rooms. Curiosity replaced hesitation, and wires and circuits offered another craft through which provision could continue. The trajectory that began in a saloon had not ended in stagnation, it adapted. The house on Prairie Road stood as testament to convergence, Depression son, farm daughter, wartime injury, agricultural steadiness, and industrial labor layered within one foundation. It did not resolve every tension, nor did it erase hunger remembered from earlier years, yet it held children who would later step into classrooms and offices far removed from foxholes and hayfields. Generations rarely perceive the full arc while living inside it. What appears as stubbornness may conceal displacement. What appears as refusal may protect continuity. The war had given back not simply decoration but alignment, two people whose differences would temper rather than cancel one another. In time, the uniform was folded away, and tools replaced rifles as instruments of daily effort. The guitar remained, its strings carrying memory without requiring explanation. Music that once steadied a hungry youth now filled a finished room painted rose, echoing softly against plaster he had once been taught to shape. The farm hill remained, the prairie house weathered seasons, and children grew tall beneath beams their father had lifted. Injury, enlistment, and refusal had converged into something quieter than heroism and more durable than resentment. A household capable of persisting beyond the original conflict. War had taken time and blood, yet it had also returned a marriage, a scar, a house, and the first chapters of a lineage that would move from field to factory to office in years ahead. What was given back was not glory but structure, not applause but foundation. Enlistment and injury reorganized geography and obligation, yet their enduring effect lay not in decoration but in the convergence of survival and steadiness within one household. The pattern established in those years would continue to unfold beyond the horizon of war itself. Somewhere, timber still curves inward to form vast arches, and somewhere else, plaster dries against lath beneath steady hands. The instruments change, the posture remains. Some records exist to preserve convergence without embellishment, to hold the moment when hunger, injury, marriage, and land met within one structure. This story is preserved as part of the archive to document early generational formation during wartime and its structural consequences across decades. It is kept for continuity, not for correction. Thank you for visiting our channel and spending time with our work. Red Cardinal Kitchen, the illumination of a dynamic archive.